Yemen tonight. Does this mean that it is the new front in the war on terror? Log on to AC360.com for more on the secret U.S. military operations targeting al-Qaeda in an increasingly unstable region, including a blog from Peter Bergen. And right here when we come back, 3 passengers from Flight 253, a husband and wife, who are raising a provocative question tonight. Did the suspect possibly have help getting onto this flight? In fact, did this man even have a passport? That's ahead. Well, joining us now, passengers Kurt and Lori Haskell, who told authorities about a remarkable scene they witnessed at the gate in Amsterdam. Also with us tonight is Rochelle Keatman, who was on board that flight as well with her family, including her newly adopted brother and sister from Ethiopia. Good to have all of you with us. Kurt, I want to start with you because you say you witnessed the suspect at the airport and you saw something that really made you sit up and take notice. To walk us through what you saw in Amsterdam.
Sure. Lori and I were sitting near the boarding gate. Sitting on the floor, there weren't any seats to sit in. And I saw 2 men, and they caught my eye because they seemed to be an odd pair. One was what I would describe as a poor-looking black teenager around 16 or 17, and the other man, a age 50-ish, wealthy-looking Indian man, and I was just wondering why they were together. Kind of strange. And I watched them approach what I would call the ticket agent, the final person that checks your boarding pass before you get on the plane. And I could hear the entire conversation. The only person that spoke was the Indian man, and what he said was, this man needs to board the plane, but he doesn't have a passport. And the ticket agent responded, well, if he doesn't have a passport, he can't get on the plane. To which the Indian man responded back, he's from Sudan. We do this all the time. And the ticket agent said, well, then you'll have to go and talk to my manager. And she directed them down a hallway. And that was the last time that I saw the Indian man. And the black man I didn't see again until he tried to blow up our plane a few hours later.
And when did you put 2 and 2 together and realize that this in fact appeared to be the same man you saw who may not have had a passport?
I got a good look at him on the plane when we landed and the FBI was arresting him, and that's when I put it all together. I recognized him as the same man that I had seen before we boarded.
And I know everyone has been questioned who was on that flight. Lori, it's tough to understand, I think, especially for a lot of people watching this, and I'm sure for you who were sitting there, how anybody could be allowed on board an international flight without a passport. When you and your husband talked to authorities, when you told them what you saw, what was the reaction?
They seemed really interested in what we had to say. They talked to every family. A lot of the families they were talking to them for about 5 minutes or so. They talked to Kurt and I for probably about 15 minutes, maybe a little bit more. At one point, they called over another FBI agent to, I guess, witness what the other one was talking to us about. So I think that they were really interested in what we had to say about what we saw in the Amsterdam airport. However, the FBI and no other authorities have contacted us since then.
And does that seem odd to you, or do you figure that's just part of the investigation?
You know, I don't know. It does seem a little bit odd if my husband is the only one that noticed this happening. I would think that we would have been contacted for further questioning, especially now with all of the media that's been contacting us.
It'll be interesting to see if they do contact you in the next few days, and we hope you'll let us know as well. In terms of security, though, Rochelle, I know you have said it, and Kurt and Lori talked a little bit about this, but Rochelle, you've said that you thought the security was actually a little bit lax in Amsterdam. How so?
Oh, absolutely. When we had to go through security, we didn't even have to take our shoes off. Also, my mom had a water bottle, forgot about it in her bag, and it scanned right through. So we brought it in and onto the plane. So,
were you concerned about that at all at the time, or was it more in hindsight you thought, well, wait a minute, what else could have gotten on the plane?
You know, I compared it to the airports here, and that wouldn't be allowed, but at the same time, you're just so eager to get home, you don't think about that right then.
And especially for you traveling with your newly adopted siblings, obviously an exciting time for you and your family, but for these kids, I can only imagine how scary that must have been. You were at the rear of the plane, so you didn't actually see all this happening, but there's plenty of commotion. How did the kids handle it?
Well, you know, our goal on the entire flight when this was occurring was to just not let these 2 children know what was going on. We agreed that we would just pretend that it was a big game, because these kids have been through so much in their lives that this just wasn't, they didn't need to know what was going on, so we turned it into, they don't speak English, and we turned it into more of a game and said, isn't this exciting? And we sang songs, and my dad and I and my mom, we all prayed together for safety, and that, you know, if we weren't going to make it, that these children would never know what was really going on.
And we should point out, we're looking at some pictures of them there on the flight. That was actually the flight that got you to Amsterdam, not the flight from Amsterdam to Detroit. When all of this went down, I know that this man with the suspect was tackled pretty quickly by other passengers. Kurt and Lori, you were actually not too far, only a number of rows behind all of them. Was there anything else that you noticed or that stuck out about that incident, Kurt, as this man is being tackled?
I think I'll let Lori answer that. When this was going on, I was more focused on the fire, and she witnessed more of the altercation between the terrorist and the passengers.
And Lori, he seemed to be subdued pretty quickly.
Yeah, everything happened, it seemed like, in less than a minute. We saw smoke. We then saw flames going up the side of the plane near the seat where he was sitting. At that point, two people, one from behind him and one from the side of him, tackled him to the ground, and that's pretty much the last time we saw him. We were pretty freaked out by the fire, so we weren't paying attention to that. We were paying attention to the fire going up the side of the plane.
Understandable, obviously. And we just saw that the picture there. There's a still photo of the suspect on the plane. But I know, Rochelle, you believe there may actually be video of the incident?
Yeah, that was very strange. There was a man that when we first took off, I noticed about 10 seats ahead of us to the left-hand side. He had a camcorder, and I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe this was his first flight and was just excited. And then when the actual incident occurred, I looked up, and he was the only one standing and filming the entire thing.
Interesting. There obviously still so much more to come out about this. We really appreciate you joining us, Kurt and Lori Haskell, Rochelle Keatman, with your insight tonight. Good to have all of you with us. Thanks. Later, more on what Gene was talking about, whether technology may be the answer to better safety. We'll take a look at those scanners that can look at every inch of you and look at whether or not you need to still have a problem with that. In terms of that technology, though, Gene, I understand this is sort of a separate piece of technology, but security related, that you have some new information on the 3D body scanners we've been hearing so much about. Could those scanners actually have detected the fact that there was something sewn into this man's underwear and raised a red flag?
Well, I was just talking to someone who is very familiar with this technology, and he believes it could. There are two types of body imaging technology. One is called backscatter. It relies on X-rays, and with that technology, they have largely blurred the crotch area for privacy reasons. This expert says it would be easy enough to change those settings to bring in a little bit more detail for security reasons in order to see something like this. The other technology is called millimeter wave. That works more like radar, bouncing things back and forth. This individual says that technology, he believes, would pick up an anomaly. It might not give you a crystal clear picture of the crotch area, but it would probably, through pattern recognition, be able to tell you that something was amiss there.